It's time to cut the cheese. In keeping with the theme of scrapwood projects, I'm going to make a couple of these cheese slicers. If you've watched any of my previous videos, chances are good that you've seen my other video where I made 3 different versions of these. It is the most viewed video on my channel. These cheese slicers make great Christmas gifts, and they're really easy to make. They're simple enough that they can be made from a single board. I like mixing different species of wood together to make the design a little more interesting. Depending upon what you have in your scrapwood pile, you probably have enough to make one of these already. A lot of hardwood stores have a bin of cut-offs that are great to use to make these as well. And depending upon the species, these can be an inexpensive option. For this one, I'll use ash, bloodwood, and walnut left over in my scrapwood bin. I'll play around with the layout until I find one that I like. Before I can glue these together, I have to joint the edges to make sure that there is a good surface area between them all that doesn't leave any gaps. With no gaps in the seam, I'll glue these together and set them aside to dry. Next, I've got this piece of purple heart. Purple heart alone is very pretty, but I want to add some oak and some walnut to give it a nice accent. The pieces of oak are about an 1/8 inch thick. This piece of walnut is shaped almost like a wedge, where it is wider on one end than the other. So I'll cut this piece of purple heart in 2 and glue the oak and the walnut pieces in the middle. Now that my glue-ups have had time to dry, I'll take them out of the clamps and run them through my planer. These boards are longer than I need, so I'll be able to cut off any snipe left by the planer. With the boards milled down to the right thickness, I will cut them to their final dimensions. Once these are cut to their final dimensions, then you cut the saw curve. The saw curve goes 3 inches from the edge. Now, I don't want to switch out my table saw blade for something with a flat top grind. I'm going to use my general purpose blade that's already in the table saw, which has an high ATB, or alternate tooth bevel. High ATB blades will leave this tiny little ridge in the center of the groove. So, to compensate for that, I'm going to raise my blade about a 1/16 of an inch higher than I would normally. Now that I have my saw curve cut in these boards, I can drill the hole in the side for the slicer mechanism. To make sure that the hole is perpendicular to the top and bottom, front to back, I'm going to use my doweling jig to start the hole. This doweling jig has both 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch options. The mechanism needs a 1/4 inch hole, so that's the one that I'll use. I will drill using this doweling jig as far as I can go, then I will remove the jig, and then drill the rest of the way. The one thing that is different than the last time that I made these, the last time I had to use a 3rd bit to get the hole deep enough for the slicer mechanism. This time I was able to get the bit chucked in such a way that I could drill the hole to where it was deep enough. Now with the holes drilled, I'll check to make sure the slicer mechanism fits. Sometimes whenever you put these mechanisms in for the first time, you will have to play around with the wire and the tension to make sure that you get these to fit and that the wire lines up with the saw curve. Typically, once you get them to fit, they usually work great going forward. Now I will take an 1/8 inch roundover bit in my router to ease all of these edges. And then I will sand everything really well until I get to 220 grit. With everything nice and smooth, I will cover these in mineral oil and then let that soak in really well. Once I have good coverage with the mineral oil, I will then cover the board in board butter, which is a mixture of mineral oil and beeswax. After I have them covered, I will wipe off any excess and then reinstall the slicer mechanism. And there you have it, 2 more cheese slicers. As you can see, these are a really simple project to make, and they are great gifts. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll see you on the next one.